Hello, world.
And we are locked in. Myself, Max Van Auken, Dave the Wave. How are you doing, sir?
Cause I'm doing great. It's like we've never done that before.
um, Man, locked in, guys. All podcast platforms. Download and subscribe. Locked in with two N's. We want to thank our sponsors: Magna Loops, Fit Meals, Pep-Boys. You name it. You need to get your car repaired. You need to have a good diet, or you need something to hold some cords, some Christmas presents. Magna Loops. We are blessed to have the sponsors we do. But Dave, this is going to be a great episode.
And this is what I want to say. I want to grab our audience, the community, and I want to peek behind the curtain. Max and I are always talking about what are we going to talk about on the podcast. There's so many great sporting events, players. How about that SEC championship game, Alabama, Georgia?
Yeah.
Amazing. Max Holloway, UFC, one of the best performances I've ever seen. A great week in football, NFL. But Max called me today and said, hey, guys, this is Dwyane Wade and LeBron James's last game ever playing against each other. This is it. 16 years in the NBA, two of the greatest players ever. They play on the same team. We'll get into so many things. But he goes, we should do a podcast about LeBron and Wade and them together, them against each other, their careers. I'm like, that's one of the best ideas I've ever heard in my life. I was like, let's get locked in.
Of course. Yeah, it's two iconic players, generational type players that you won't always get. Two Hall of Famers, two people out of the same draft class, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time in LeBron James, and Dwyane Wade, who will go down as one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, NBA champion, MVP. So I was like, let's just take a time to just reflect on their careers together when they were obviously on the Miami Heat, separately. Obviously, LeBron James will continue to play past this season. This is Dwyane Wade's last season. But where does Dwyane Wade rank? So I guess I'll start with this, Dave. We're going to obviously kind of go back and forth on where he ranks and whatnot and what were his best moments. But let's just start with when they got drafted. This is the best draft class, in my opinion, of all time, with LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh. You even have Luke Walton in there. Like, the list goes on who was in this class. Are we in agreement with that one?
It's close. It was also Carmelo Anthony was in that draft too.
Exactly.
It's number one or number two. The only argument is 1984. It's the Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon. I believe John Stockton was in that draft. A couple more Hall of Famers, but just Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan. That's pretty dang close. But if it's not one, Max, it is definitely number two. So, yeah, keep rolling with that.
Okay, so when entering the draft, we all know LeBron James was the chosen one. He was the king. He had high expectations ever since high school. But I wanted to take this moment for Dwyane Wade. Coming out of college, he enters the draft. Obviously, he is a great prospect. But what I think he's done with his career is so impressive because there's so many players who are supposed to be amazing. There's so many players who are gifted and have God-gifted talents that nobody else has. But to put in the work and have the self-awareness that he's had his whole career, to be the defender that he's had, the teammate, the leader, I just want to say I think he's overachieved what he was projected to be.
Oh, 100%. And I have so many things in and outs about Dwyane Wade and LeBron and the crossover of both of them together and separate. But, yeah, I like where you're starting to start from the beginning and talk it out.
Yeah.
He was the fifth pick of the draft, University of Marquette. He's from Illinois. He's a Chicago boy. When he was in Marquette, I loved him in college. I remember watching him during March Madness, and he just had this – he popped off the screen. He was electric. He drove the ball. He was very athletic, but definitely you can tell at an early age. I remember March Madness, Marquette, not the greatest basketball school, but you can tell like he was a little bit of a winner. He did everything: rebound, pass, defend, block, steal. He did it all, and I loved him in the draft. And I thought he was going to be a really good player. The Knicks, if I remember right, was 6 or 7 in that draft. I'm a Knicks fan, and I would, all the mock drafts, Dwyane Wade was in that range, and I was saying I would love for the Knicks to draft Wade. But with the Heat, Pat Riley, one of the greatest general managers, owners, presidents of basketball operations in league history. And with the fifth pick overall, when he picked Dwyane Wade, I don't even think Pat Riley knew what he was getting at. And when I think of the Miami Heat, I think of Dwyane Wade.
I agree. Okay, so now obviously let's take a look. He becomes an NBA champion before LeBron James even gets there. Finals MVP. He put on one of the greatest final performances of all time. That alone has to stand out as one of the most impressive final performances of all time. Do you rank that up there with LeBron James? Do you rank that up there with Jordan in the flu? Do you rank that up there with Shaquille O'Neal and the Lakers? Where do you rank Dwyane Wade's first ring without LeBron James and his performances in the finals?
All right, you ready for this one? I was hoping you would ask me this question because this was one of the hot topics I definitely wanted to hit. It's the greatest NBA Finals performance in the history of my life. Let me think on that now. LeBron James and Jordan, there's been other great performances. It's definitely in the top 3 or top 5 ever. But to me, it's number 1, and this is the number 1 reason why. Jordan and LeBron, you can argue, debate 1 and 2 greatest players of all time. And when they're in the finals, I know they're supposed to win. They're the best player in the finals. They're the best player in the league. They were probably the MVP that year. All that being said, Dwyane Wade and the Heat were underdogs to the Dallas Mavericks that year. That was Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash. The team was stacked. Sean Marion, I believe. Michael Finley, I would believe, was on that team. They were 8-9 deep. They were just stacked beyond belief. They were the favorites, and Shaq just got traded over from Phoenix, and Shaq was the best player during the regular season for the Heat. Dwyane Wade was definitely Robin. It was like Superman and Robin, Batman and Robin kind of a thing. And Dwyane Wade was really, really good that year. This was his 3rd year in the league, but he still wasn't, no one thought he was the best player in the world or a top 5 player even at that time. But that finals, Max, they were down 0-2 to Dallas. They were down double digits in the 4th quarter to Dallas, thinking that it could be a sweep. And Dwyane Wade for the next 17 quarters, the next 4 games in the 4th quarter of that game, was absolutely unguardable. He willed his team to victory, offensive, defensive. I just remember he was always on the foul line. He just drove the ball to the rim as hard and as fast as he could. It was the greatest NBA performance I've ever seen in my life.
I would rank it up there with like 2 or 3, because what LeBron James did, and everyone knows I'm a LeBron James guy, but to lead the series against the Golden State Warriors, who's the greatest team of all time, in every statistical category, in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, was the most impressive to me because he's the only one to do that. Nobody else has ever done that. So to me, that's number 1, and to come back from 3-1 and win. So LeBron James has my number 1, but Dwyane Wade would be probably my number 2 because all the things you just said. He put the team on his back, and he showed the dog in him. He showed why he is one of the greatest shooting guards of all time. But here's my bigger question, too. So let's just shift gears real quick to the Miami stage with LeBron James, right? So LeBron James is a villain the first year. They lose to the Dallas Mavericks. Then he gives the role to LeBron James to be the man in Miami. So then they win 2 rings. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then they beat the Spurs. Obviously, they lose to the Spurs afterwards, then LeBron leaves. But in that span, because now we look at the all-time great teams, right? This Warriors team was 73-9. LeBron James beats them. So we're like, okay, that's probably not the greatest team of all time then because they lost in the finals. Then they add Kevin Durant, and now everybody's saying they're the greatest team of all time, including me. I believe they are. They're the most talented. They break all the records. You have the Bulls. You have the Celtics. You have the Showtime Lakers. So you have all these teams that we talk about, and for some reason, Miami doesn't get brought up. And I understand why. When you look at the all-time great teams, I wouldn't consider the Miami Heat team an all-time great team compared to the others. But in your opinion, where do you see this team in the history books amongst the other ones?
Definitely at the bottom. I think you kind of nailed it. There was the Lakers, not even Showtime Lakers, even the Kobe and Shaq Lakers, I thought were even better. this team was almost a two-man team. Of course, they had Chris Bosh as well. And Chris Bosh was very good. He made the All-Star team all 4 years. He was there. Really good third player. And this is like the whole Big Three era. So Bosh was really good. But other than that, Max, their point guard and center for all 4 years that they were there were just horrendous to be NBA championship caliber teams. All 4 years, it was Mario Chalmers from
Norris
Kansas.
Cole.
Yeah, Norris Cole was his backup. The center was a revolving door. Sometimes it was Haslam. Joel Anthony was sometimes. Remember Birdman? He even started some center. And then their bench was old veteran, last year or two, three-point shooters, guys like Mike Miller,
Shane
Ray
Battier.
Allen at the end. Also, it was Shane Battier. They had older guys like Juwan Howard was on the first couple of teams. Of course, James Jones was always on LeBron James's team, so he was there. So, Max, it was a LeBron James and Dwyane Wade show. It was LeBron James winning and learning how to win a little bit through Dwyane Wade and Pat Riley. But when he did, we all know what happens after that. We'll talk about that soon. But it was LeBron James and Dwyane Wade joining forces to say, hey, the Boston Celtics and their big three we had to take them down. The West was stacked with Tim Duncan and Dynasty of the Spurs and also a young little dynasty of Oklahoma City Thunder. We had to take them down. And it was these two of the greatest players ever, the greatest small forward ever, and the third best scoring guard ever, joining forces to win championships in South Beach.
Yeah, and you hit on something. I think them joining did more than just them winning. Like, them joining meant LeBron James learning how to win, which paved the way for his future to win a championship in Cleveland. But what it also did was you found the ingredients on how to win a championship for LeBron James, surround him around shooters. But you also realized it was the three-point revolution. But then on top of that, it was everyone knows that Boston formed a quote-unquote super team of Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rondo, right? So, but you look at Miami, and that was the first time you really had two players in their primes being able to join, and they're top five in the league right then and there. LeBron James 1, Dwyane Wade 3, 2 or 3, 4. So I think that was the first time we've ever seen a true super team together like that. And then obviously that influences teams like Golden State. Even saw your New York Knicks try to replicate it with Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony, and they recruited. I mean, Jason Kidd was past his prime, but they would get all these names. And all of a sudden, the NBA is a copycat league, and we started to see people copycat that and replicate it and try to do the best they could. And obviously, it ended up working. I mean, the Lakers ended up getting Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, Paul Gasol. So I think what this Miami Heat team did, they won't go down, like you said. I'm in agreement. They won't go down as the all-time great team, one of the greatest teams. But I think they've revolutionized the NBA. More than, like, their impact is greater for the league than it was them individually.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. They're not a great all-time team, but maybe one of the most important, one of the most impactful teams of all time. Hey, LeBron James, maybe the greatest player of all time, 2 championships, 4 straight finals. It elevates Wade. Pat Riley elevates him, and this super team that they created joining forces together with Bosh. But let me steer this a little bit, a kind of quick direction. One thing, I think it's funny that LeBron James was drafted by Cleveland, an East Coast and Eastern Conference team, and Dwyane Wade was drafted by the Heat, an Eastern Conference team. So both of these guys are in the East. They're both Eastern Conference guys. I know LeBron's a Laker now, but until he plays or goes to the Western Conference Finals, I always think of LeBron an Eastern Conference guy. For one, they never played each other in a big series in the Eastern Conference Finals. It isn't like the Wade's Heat versus LeBron's Cavs. They never really had that matchup. They played one time in the first round, and that was it. It was always Boston. They always had to go through Boston, Garnett, Pierce, and Ray Allen. Chicago with Derrick Rose was really good. The MVP year with Noah, the beginning of Jimmy Butler. It was Washington Wizards. They had Gilbert Arenas back then, and they used to play Cleveland a lot. I think it's crazy that these two guys for 7-8 years never really battled each other in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and then they joined forces to beat the Eastern Conference juggernaut, which was the Celtic.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And obviously they have the regular season matchups, and it's crazy. So they're tied. They were like 15-15, so this last game was the tiebreaker. But no, that's a very good point, and I wonder what it would look like seeing them compete in the playoffs. And that's the same thing we always say about LeBron James, right? He never played Kobe Bryant. Like, we wish we could have seen that finals matchup with LeBron guarding Kobe and vice versa, Dwyane Wade and Kobe Bryant in the finals. So those are type of the matchups that we just dream of and wish they came to fruition, but never did.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think a little bit it opened the door for them to join forces because, and that's why people are so upset with Kevin Durant, I'm sorry, I apologize. It's okay to get on a team if, there's no rivalry there or there's nothing major, no beef. But if a team beats you over and over again, it kind of seems a little cowardy, a little snaky, a little cupcake, if you want to say the Kevin Durant term, to then join them. So the Heat and Cavs never really battled. They never really had this back and forth rivalry like a Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins or Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. So those guys can never join forces.
I'm really glad you pointed that out.
Just after 7-8 years, they were such good friends off and on the court. They said, hey, we can't win. We can't beat the juggernaut of Boston. So let's join forces together.
Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out because this is what drives me insane with the Kevin Durant trade. I get it. Kevin Durant left, and I don't blame him for it. Like you said, it can be looked at as a snake kind of move because who he went to. Like, if you go to a better environment, a better job situation, you're happier. I will never discourage that. But he did go to a team that he was up 3-1 on. He did go to a team that beat him, and he left to join that team. Like you mentioned, LeBron James never lost to Miami and then went to Miami. Miami didn't go 73-9 and then LeBron joined them. He went to Dwyane Wade, and then he formed the super team with recruiting Chris Bosh to go with him and adding those veteran players that Ray Allen eventually came. So this team wasn't formulated before he went there, like the Golden State Warriors were when Kevin Durant went there. So I think that's the big difference between the two that people mix up because I always hear that is LeBron James went to Miami. It's like it's a completely different situation and scenario because of what you just said. They were never rivals. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, they weren't. And the Heat, they were a 7 or 8 seed that year with Dwyane Wade. They got bounced in the first round, I'm pretty sure, by Boston. And that was it. Like LeBron was joining a team to win championships. And I really want to talk about that. Them two playing together. So for 4 straight years, 4 straight NBA finals, back-to-back championships there in the middle of the second and third year. And like I said, a lot of moving pieces. Seems like they had a different center every 3 months. They just didn't fit. They really didn't. It was just a mixed mosh of players, ages, some young guys, some older guys, a lot of 10-day contract players that just made the team over and over again. But they had Dwyane Wade and LeBron James, and they just made it work. So many great playoff series against the Indiana Pacers, Paul George on that team. So many great playoff series, of course, the Boston Celtics. I just think it was an underrated run in those 4 years. Yeah, it's not an all-time team, and it's one of the most impactful and smartest teams of all time. But to go to 4 straight NBA finals was just – it's an amazing feat. It really is. And for them to win 2 out of the 4, and the 2 teams they beat, I think it's under – LeBron James's championship wins are really underrated. The first one, they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, if you look back on that team, it's Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. All 3 MVPs, all 3 all-timers. Durant's got championships now. We'll see what happens to Harden or Westbrook in the future. But that team they beat, and then they beat the dynasty of the Spurs. And that Spurs team Duncan was still playing pretty good. It was Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. The team was absolutely stacked. So for them to beat Greg Popovich, Kevin Durant, Duncan, Westbrook, Parker, Harden, Ginobili, I just tip my hat off to Dwyane Wade and LeBron James.
Yeah, and that's why when I always have the LeBron James and Jordan debate, it's who did they play in the finals? And like the amount of Hall of Famers they played quadruples the amount Michael Jordan did. And of course, I'm not trying to spark this debate right now. I'm just saying it adds to your point is the people they played were amazing Hall of Fame all-time players. Now, obviously, they ended up, LeBron James goes to Cleveland. He wins a ring. Dwyane Wade goes to the Chicago Bulls, where he's from. and kind of just has a weird regular season with Jimmy Butler, right? Jimmy Butler and Rondo. And then he goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that doesn't really work out. They had some cool alley-oops for a couple games, and then he goes back, and now this is his last season in Miami. And I love what he's doing with the exchanging of the jerseys with all the best players or the people that he really cares about on the opposite team, like a Vince Carter or a Donovan Mitchell. So I really like that. But now can I ask you, I'm kind of going to fast forward here. Looking back at his career, he's a 3-time NBA champion. He's won a Finals MVP. Do you look at Dwyane Wade as the third greatest shooting guard behind Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant? Is he further on your list, further down? Do you have him above Kobe Bryant? Where do you put Dwyane Wade in retrospect of all time?
Yeah, no, it's right there, third. I think it's pretty simple, pretty obvious. It's Michael Jordan's the greatest scoring guard ever. Kobe is definitely second, and he's third. There's other guys behind him. I think we had that Mount Rushmore episode of the Locked In podcast. You can download and subscribe on any podcast platform. Look back. It was probably like maybe 80 episodes ago. Yeah, I have him above Clyde Drexler. I think he's an underrated all-time great defender at the 2 spot. Blocking shots, guarding the wing, stealing the ball, starting the fast break. And, of course, his first final win without LeBron and with Shaq and upset in Dallas is just an all-timer. And then him having the self-awareness to say, yeah, Max, Max, we're the Locked In Sports podcast. But if Colin Cowherd wants to join our show, I think you and I are smart enough and big enough to be like, okay, we can handle our own. We still have great theories. We got the scoreboard and MMA. Our Mount Rushmores, our picks in football have been outstanding. We think we can hold our own. I think you and I have the self-awareness to let Colin Cowherd join our team and take us to the next level too, kind of what LeBron did to Wade. Because if Wade only won 1 championship, it's he's not a failure by any means. And like we said at the very beginning of the show, he got every little ounce of athletic ability out of him. He's a true champion. But the 3 titles it sounds great. He's just an all-timer. And I just think that Dwyane Wade fits perfect at that number 3 scoring guard spot of all time.
I'm in agreement. A lot of people say Jerry West, like you said, Clyde Drexler. I have Dwyane Wade above both of them. And something that I'll say about Dwyane Wade also is Kobe Bryant has retired and he's done amazingly. Like, he's won awards. He's wrote that Dear Basketball poem or letter, and he's really become greater. It's like he's looked at as a legend, like he should be. There's other athletes who don't necessarily keep up the reputation off the court once they retire. I think Dwyane Wade, because of all the characteristics we've already said about him, having the self-awareness, being aware of what the goal is, and I think he's the type of player who will do the same. I think he'll do what Kobe Bryant did. Once he retires and his basketball career is over, we'll still look at him as much as we do now with that high of praise, if not even more. I think he's one of those type of guys that's just extremely smart, extremely cerebral, and he's not going to be one of those athletes who destroys their reputation after their game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I can definitely see him in TNT working with Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, or maybe, getting some ownership of the Miami Heat. I always think of him as the Heat. But just real quick to kind of, we really don't talk about the other guy that much. LeBron James, you and I barely dib on, it's just once in a while. I really want to talk about those 4 years after Miami. It was so important for him to go to Miami. He calls it college of his NBA career. And when he graduated, he took all that winning, all that leadership, all that will to win to Cleveland. And Cleveland is absolutely a top 3 worst organizations in the NBA. The Clippers, maybe Kings, maybe Cavs. I think those probably the bottom 3. And LeBron James for 7-8 years made them winners, brought him to a couple finals, couldn't do it. And then he had to go to Miami to learn how to win championships. And he joined forces. Kyrie Irving was there. I think he elevated him. Kevin Love joined the team. And it was unbelievable. Another great run, that 3-1. You have it as the greatest finals performance. Hey, I'm not going to argue that. It's unbelievable. Down 3-1 to a 73-win team. and to triple doubles. It was amazing. It was still, Max, that Game 7, one of the greatest sports moments of my life. Us celebrating them winning that game, Gabby's Pizza. It was just one of those memories I'll never forget. And I just think it's important that LeBron James and Dwyane Wade will always intertwine their careers. I don't think you can talk about one of them for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes at a bar talking about their career without bringing up the other guy.
No, exactly. And Dwyane Wade's even said that. They're brothers. They're somebody that's more than basketball, that relationship, and that's special. And yeah, if like you said, if it wasn't for Dwyane Wade, LeBron James wouldn't have had the career that he's had, and vice versa. So they've really intertwined magically, gracefully. Great duo, teammates, brothers. Now, looking at it, it's going to be sad when Dwyane Wade retires. We know that. You mentioned him going to TNT. If LeBron James has one more championship, I think that would even mean that much more to Dwyane Wade, just seeing him succeed. You know what I mean? Like, it's just always cool to see those intertwine. Is there a relationship in the NBA like theirs?
I really don't think so, because you think of Magic and Larry Bird, but they were heated rivals.
Exactly.
They never joined forces. Kobe and Shaq were on the same team, but even on the same team, they were rivals.
Yeah.
I really felt when they were on the same team, they didn't care who scored 42. They just wanted to win.
Yep.
I thought they were just all about winning, very selflessness, great defenders. They helped everyone. And I think it's a relationship that will go down in history as one of the greatest in NBA history. And, I think both of them will always be thankful for the other person. And I'm excited to see what the Lakers do with this year and next. And let me just almost with a little bow. And me and Max, we talked about this off air. And just real quickly on LeBron James about this year and how great he's playing. And I just heard a couple, NBA guys and sports reporters, and I can't wait to have an NBA show coming up this week. I heard that they said LeBron James and the Lakers have absolutely zero shot of winning the finals this year. And to me, that's just crazy. That's just asinine. That's just not letting things breathe. That's not looking at the big picture. Are they a favorite? No. Will they be underdogs? Yes. The Warriors are definitely the favorite. They have 4 All-Stars, soon to be 5 when Cousins gets healthy. It's an all-time great team. The East is stacked. Raptors, Bucks, Sixers, Celtics. The Thunder is playing really good. The Nuggets are good. It's stacked. But you have the greatest player in the world playing at an all-time level. And you just don't know how the season's going. There's already rumors of Trevor Ariza being out there, and I think he would be an absolute special player on this team. And you never know. Trades happen. Injuries happen, especially with the Warriors. And we've seen without Curry, they are just not the same team. I'm not picking them to win the title this year. I'm not. I just think it's crazy to say that they have 0%.
I've been saying this, Dave. I've been saying that. Let me compliment that statement. LeBron James is still putting up the best numbers of his career. He's averaging 28 points right now. He's putting up better statistical numbers than he's put up last year, the year before that. He is still the best player in the world. And whenever you have the best player in the world, you have a shot. Like you said, I'm not predicting them to win the championship, but to say this team has 0% chance is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's bananas. But, Dave, it's going to be amazing watching LeBron James continue his career. It's sad, but Dwyane Wade has aged gracefully, so it's really cool to see both of these athletes kind of play one last time. Final prediction, who wins the last matchup?
Los Angeles Lakers. They have home court advantage. They are the better team, playing better. I think LeBron James has more weapons around him. I think the Lakers and LeBron James win the last matchup between LeBron James and Dwyane Wade.
And that means he would be up in the series 16-15. So it's almost like the tiebreaker, too. Kind of ironic. But anyway, guys, download, subscribe, Locked In with 2 N's on all podcast platforms. Remember, 2 N's, that's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Apple Podcast, you name it, we're on it. Dave, you brought your A game today.
Thank you, sir. You did too. Definitely check out fightbananas.com. Check out our sponsors, like you said at the beginning of this episode. Richie from Pep-Boys. Check them out, Daytona Beach. Magna Loops. Go to magnaloops.com or check them out on Facebook as well. And you can always, everyone knows our main man, Dimitri from Fit Meals. If you want a great meal plan, check them out at myfitmeals.com. Check them out on Facebook, Fit Meals.
There we go. What a show, Dave.
It was pretty good. I think it's a B+.
B+, really?
No, I love it, man. I can talk about LeBron James for 9 hours.
I know. We have to save it. That's our tomorrow show.
All right, then. Well, I guess we'll wait till tomorrow, but we got to go home tonight. So like always,
stay
locked in.